Good evening to all the venerable monks, and we don't have nuns today. Hopefully later on they will join. So let us begin our session by paying respect and homage to the Buddha. So let us recite Namo Tassa 3 times. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I pay my respect and homage to him, the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened Buddha. Dear Venerable Bhikkhu and dear friends in Dhamma, it is such a great joy for us to have this bi-weekly Sutra discussion for the greater benefit of the venerable monks and nuns, as well as for the lay people across the world. So we have been coming to Zoom platform like this for almost 2 years. By January, it would be 2 years. Hopefully, we will be able to organize a Dhamma conference with your help. Once we decide to have a Dhamma conference with the venerable monks and nuns, I will seek your help to organize it. Again, it would be maybe a global online Dhamma conference. So let's go for it. We need to invite some prominent monks or nuns to come and give some Dhamma talk. So maybe to have a special theme of Dhamma so that we all can participate in the discussion. So before we go into our topic, I would like to introduce our venerable monks who are present for this discussion. So we have Venerable Tridao joining from Florida, USA. And then we have Venerable Pesala Thero joining the discussion from Sri Lanka. Is very early morning for you, Venerable Pesala. I'm very pleased with your commitment. Thank you for showing your great interest in discussion and your contribution. And then we have Venerable Sarnapala Thero joining from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And then we have Venerable Kalabovil Ananda Thero joining the discussion from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. And then we have Venerable Shanta Sobana joining the discussion from Los Angeles, USA. Then we have Venerable Bhante Jinananda joining the discussion from Ottawa, Canada. And then we have Venerable Digale Somavangsha, who is joining the discussion from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And just now, Venerable Tataloka Theri is joining the discussion from Northern California. And very pleased to see you, Venerable Tataloka. Congratulations on your monastic journey. You have completed 37 years in monastic life and completed, by tomorrow, it will be 25 years anniversary of your Upasampada.
Yes, Monday, tomorrow will be my 25-year anniversary of Upasampada, but I'm not quite yet 35 years in monastic life.
Very pleased to have you.
Bhante, I wanted to just pop in and to just pay my respects to all our most venerable senior Bhantes who are on from North America and around the world. Vandamiham, my vandana to all on this occasion of my 25th anniversary of Upasampada. I'm sorry I'm not able to stay on long for today, but I just wanted to offer my respects to my venerable seniors and request your blessings.
I think it would be nice to have you say something about your experience as a nun.
Bante, would this time now be good or a little bit later be good?
Okay, so if you can stay around for another half an hour, maybe you can talk about your experience as a monk, as a nun.
Let me see. I may be able to stay for another 20 minutes or so, if it's all right.
Okay, that's all right. Yeah, I will come to you. Okay, and
Bante.
Yeah, thank you. And then we have Venerable Kotavi Nanda Theo, Rhode Island from USA. And we have the Venerable monks. I can't see your face. Is that Ananda Sagara from... Where are you from? Okay, I can't hear you. It's muted. I assume he's with the Venerable Nanda, right?
Yeah. Bante, Ananda Sagar also with me in Long Island, New York.
Oh, wonderful. Welcome. Thank you for joining the discussion. And also, we have Venerable Kotapala Sumedha joining. He's here with us in Toronto. So I would like to give you all a warm welcome to today's bi-weekly Sutra discussion. And so today we are going to focus on another very important sutra from the Anguttara Nikaya. The Anguttara Nikaya sutta is Abhinha Paccavekkitabbathana Sutta, 5 subjects of frequent contemplation. So we have titled this discussion as the 5 subjects for frequent contemplation of the monastics and the laity. And I think this is good for both the monks and nuns as well as the lay people. So we monks and nuns, of course, have been chanting this sutta throughout our life from the day we became novice monks even till today. Either in the morning or in the evening, sometimes we do this chanting of the sutta both in the morning and the evening to bring a very positive reinforcement, spiritual reinforcement into our life. And since we don't have much time for Venerable Tataloka theory, I really would like to go to Venerable Tataloka theory to hear her experience as an American Buddhist nun, and you have been a nun for 25 years of your Upasampada. And I wonder whether you do this contemplation about Tataloka theory, this sutra. And what does it mean to you? What are the benefits?
Thank you, Bante. Actually, for our Dhammadharini women's monastic community here in Northern California, we generally chant the 10 reflections, which has common shared subject matter with the 5 reflections. And so our monastic community chants this regularly. And I just want to say that during this month of November, as it's a time that so many people pass away each year in the Northern Hemisphere as we come into the winter, one of our dear, close, long-time Dhamma friends is also a Upasika Dhamma teacher, just passed away this last week. And we have yearly time of death awareness, or Maranasati. I'm not sure, is it better to say Maranasati or Marananusati? But we've been focusing in our Dhamma teachings this month of November here with Dhammadharini on this topic of the mindfulness of death or death awareness. And I have to say, with my anniversary coming up, then I feel in a way that means I'm one day closer to dying. For sure. As much as for sure. And so we chant this reflection with our community, both in Pali and also in English. And so one of the English versions that we chant is, "The days and nights are relentlessly passing. How well am I spending my time?" And so this sense parades a number of the reflections. That is the sense of impermanence and really bringing us to mindfulness with regards to how we're living and how we're spending our time, and coming back to that reflection and the immediacy of impermanence to guide us, to show us what's of most importance and most meaning to us. So even if this were our last year to live, or even if it were our last month to live, even if it were our last day to live, or even if it were our last breath right now, that we would be aligned with the Dhamma, that we would be aligned with our most excellent sense of meaning and value and purpose of what's most important. And so I think this part is what's strongest in my mind right now. It is just realizing, definitely, I don't know how much longer there is. I could pass away during this call or just after this call, not sure. But just to be aligned in this way. And this is something that over the years of monastic life, I've started to feel more and more comfortable with. In fact, as a teenager, before entering into monastic life, I had a near-death experience, kind of classical. I didn't know it at the time, but many of the characteristics of that experience were quite classical. I came down with Rocky Mountain spotted fever, late diagnosis from tick bite, yes. But I hadn't been sick as a child, so my parents were unfamiliar with sickness. Kind of, in a way, I feel affinity with the Buddha's story is like unfamiliar personally. So in that near-death experience then with high fever, I said goodbye to all my family members. I made amends. And then I felt like going up to the great light and release from this painful body. And so much sense of freedom and clarity and brightness, and so good. But then why is it a near-death experience? Because my sister entered the room. She called my name, and like a belly flop in the swimming pool, then consciousness like so painfully snapped back and open the eyes of the body. And then I felt this body of so much pain and sickness again. So after that time, as a teenager, then my values changed. So these reflections talk about worldly aims and values. And due to that experience, then I felt like it's not possible to live according to worldly aims and values anymore. And I must find a way to live differently, because I no longer believe in the fantasy story of any of these worldly aims and values. But that time, 35 years ago, as a young American, what to do? A young American teenage girl. How can you? Now I'm glad there are Bhikkhunis places in North America. And so maybe if a young American teenager has an experience like this, she can find the Bhikkhunis, she can find the monastery, she can find the place she can go to contact the Buddha's wisdom. It wasn't so easy for me, but I got very lucky to have an opportunity that many others did not have. So now I live my life dedicated to trying to share that opportunity to open up the door and provide the opportunity for others, and also not to forget that lesson, not to forget that meaning. But I know so many people are depressed and suffering from anxiety, and suicide rates are so high right now. I feel like, oh, when we know the preciousness of even the moments of this life with Dhamma, like, don't waste that time. Don't commit the suicide. But connect with the Dhamma, find your way, it's worth it. And then when you touch into that meaning deeply, then even a moment is of value and meaning. Although we're not attached to the delusions and the fantasies in the same kind of way, it's different than that. So this is what I'd say. So I try to offer that opportunity to others. That is, they find the open door, not the closed door. And the support of the Buddha's teaching. And I actually wish in this contemporary time, I appreciate your work, Bhante Sadhanapala, because like you're reaching out a lot, and I really want the people who are in need, in doubt, in pain, in suffering, who weren't born Buddhists, to be able to find the way, the freedom of the safety of sila, of moral virtue. It provides great freedom and peace and safety, and the great respite and clarity of samadhi, samatha, and then also especially the depths of the insight and the wisdom to be able to connect with that, because it helps so much. Helps so much. I know how much it can help. So when we see just Dhamma arising, meeting Dhamma in the world, it's like just arising Dhammas internally and externally, are just connected with one another. Like, I don't know the right analogy for it, but then we don't have to worry much. So, or be paying too much. I wish this for the many people who are in doubt and suffering and longing and in need. Excuse me for speaking long. Those are my thoughts, Venerable Sir. Thank you for asking me. And I just wish everyone well in their practice and fruits, and sharing Dhamma to those in need in our suffering world.
No, thank you so much, Venerable Tathagata. Actually, have done amazing. I have to congratulate you, and I say we all monks living in the West are fully aware of your activities, Dhamma activities, how you keep helping women in the United States, not just in the USA, also in Canada. Even one of my students found refuge at your place, and you gave her upasampada recently in the presence of the both bhikkhus and bhikkhunis. So what you're doing is amazing, and we are the being 25 years as upasampada theory. It's not that easy, it's a long journey, and you have accomplished a lot. And I know you're healing the people around the world, especially women in the United States, with the medicine of Dhamma. That's why Buddha said, Dhammo sada samang nati, etang pibata bhikkhu. Once there are no other greater medicine than the medicine of Dhamma. Therefore, take it. And I see you have taken that medicine of Dhamma, you have healed yourself. Now you are bringing healings to so many women in the West. So we wish you nothing but all the blessings of the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha for your health, safety, and longevity.
Sadhu, 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 Bante. Truly, osatang utamang warang. The Dhamma is the greatest medicine. And I want to take this opportunity with deep gratitude in my heart, especially to appreciate my late, most venerable Upasampada Upajaya preceptor, Venerable Dr. Heaven Pola Ratanasara Nayaka Mahatero, who passed away back so many years ago, more than 20 years ago now, and all my venerable Kalyanamitas, especially so many of the venerable monks and nuns and Sangha, and also all the lay supporters who took the chance to support the American bhikkhuni like this. I really just want to bless and appreciate all of them. I wish to pay it forward, the gift that they gave me, to pay it forward to the others, and also with highest regards to the Buddha and the Arahant Sangha and all those who even died going over land and sea to share the Dhamma with us in past millennia.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So today we are here to discuss the Anguttara Nikaya Sutta, the Abhinha Paccavekkatabbatthana Sutta. So Abhinha, as we all know, frequently, always, all the time, Paccavekkitabba must be contemplated, reflected. Thana, the places. And so there's a discourse. So this is the discourse on 5 things
need to grab some water real quick.
Be right back. Now I really would like one of our colleague monks to see whether you can give us an overview of this sutta, and then we can go into details. Like the psychological benefits of doing this reflection of the 5 things. So is there anyone who would like to give us an overview of this sutta? May I ask Venerable Jinananda from Canada?
Thank you, Bante, Sanupala, and other wonderful monks and nuns. First of all, we bless Bhikkhuni Tataloka for her anniversary. We listen to you, and it's an inspirational sharing of your monastic experience. And I would like to bless you before I begin the sutta study here. So, as Bante Sanupala invited me to give a brief introduction to sutta, I'm happy to do that. And of course, this sutta is from Anguttara Nikaya. Section number 5 is a famous discourse among monastics, bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, because it is always recited at temples and the monasteries for their daily reflection. As you said, frequently reflected discourses by its title. So, but it's interesting that the Buddha recommended this sutta for even lay people, whether it is a woman or a man or bhikkhu or bhikkhuni. That's how he started the discourse. These 5 themes should be reflected for some reason. And if you look at the sutta, he talk about the 5 things. First one is jara, that's called decay. If I go to the sutta, and what the Buddha said is that a woman or a man or a householder or a one gone forth should often reflect it thus: I'm subject to all age, I'm not exempt from all age. So this is the first one. This is getting into this situation is happening everywhere and with everyone. Either you are a very young person or an elderly person or middle-aged person, jara or the old age is taking place in each second of our life. So if you reflect this, and the Buddha is giving the benefits of it later on, and there are so many. Let's discuss them later on. Let me explain you the 5 things first. First one is I'm subject to old age. I'm not going beyond it. That's the first one. Second one is about I am subject to illness. I'm not exempt from illness. So we have to remember that we are subject to all kinds of illnesses that are dangerous, terminally ill, or even small and kind of painful experiences are considered here. So then the third one is about death. So as Tataloka mentioned, Terry mentioned that yes, we all experience this kind of happenings in our life. Some monks are not like that. Maybe you are not having a kind of near-death experience, but whether you experience it or not, the thing we need to reflect is that I'm subject to die. I'm subject to pass away. It happens at any moment. In chanting, we do Marananusmati mindfulness on death, and it reminds us that this is happening to us, everybody. Our life is uncertain, and it could end at any moment. So this idea is giving us so much blessing. So that is the third one. And the fourth one is Sabbehi me pehi mana pehi, and so on. And in English, it is like this: I must be parted and separated from everyone and everything that are dear to me and pleasing to me. So it is true. This is this reminds us the theory of impermanence. All the loved ones and beautiful things we have, they are going to go someday and at some point of our life. So remembering this to us and reflecting on that is taking us away from attachment and suffering as a result. So that's the fourth one. And the last one is about karma. So karma is playing a big role in our practice, and also being unable to practice is also karma. So if we remind ourselves that we are results of previous karma, and we are producing more new karma right now, it would be a way for us to stop bad karma and collect good karma to lead us towards the total ending of karma. So these are the 5 things that the Buddha asks us to reflect. Once again, in simple term, I'm subject to aging. I'm subject to illnesses. I'm subject to die, and I'm also subject to depart from all the dear and pleasing things from in my life, and I am a part of karma. And karma is the owner, and karma is the relationship which I have in this samsara. And these are the 5 things we all should reflect on in order to forward in the noble Dhamma. I think, Bhante, this is what you expect from me.
Thank you, Bhante Jinananda, for giving us this amazing overview of this sutra. I think, Jinananda, this sutra, if we carefully read, this sutra actually has 3 important this sutra actually has 3 important steps. Buddha gives reason why we have to frequently contemplate these 5 subjects, and I think that is the Buddha gives the reason in the next step why we have to contemplate. And in terms of his point of view, understanding the frequent reflection of these 5 subjects, these 5 things, as the best medicine for a typical human weakness that people have. And so that weakness, I think we have to openly talk about it. And so I'm wondering whether any venerable colleague or would like to talk about that part. May I go to Venerable Ananda from Cambridge, Canada, too?
Thank you, Venerables. Greetings to everyone. I will try to, like Bhante Sanipala and Bhante mentioned, that it has few sections.
Yeah.
And I try to relate it to our day-to-day experience. I think it gives a fantastic explanation. It's actually an eye-opener for because across the board, whether you're a bhikkhu, bhikkhuni, or a layperson. It's a fantastic eye-opener because usually when we get involved in things and when we start in our daily interactions with people, with buildings, with whatever we do, we forget that things have this particular nature, innate nature, and we forget and we believe or we simply assume that we won't die ever. We do as we would live forever. In fact, if you take economic or accounting, there's this thing called the going concern principle. To do accounts, you need to have it as an axiom that the business will go forever. It's called going concern axiom or going concern principle. But this is completely against it. It says that you can think so, but nothing is permanent. Things are bound to be decayed, change, and death. Things are. So I remember this thing. I was in a labor room once with my previous family, and when you are pregnant and when the baby won't come out, you give this hormone called syntocin. Which is actually called oxytocin. And why I took that example is because this oxytocin hormone is the hormone which makes people bond together. Whether you are a husband and wife, lovers, or a child or a mother, it makes you bond together. So these 5 contemplations, the fourth one especially is a reminder. Oxytocin is nice, it's natural, it gives you this bonding, but also think that one day you might have to leave all this. So I think again, thinking out loud, like when we use an Uber car, for example, it is our car, we use it, but we know that we need to get off that Uber and once the trip is ended, it's not yours. And we know that when we use an Uber car. But you should interact with people, with our loved ones, people around friends, loved ones, children, teachers, whoever. We forget that simple that there's an eventuality that things are going to change and you will have to let go. So that's the other thing. And the final point about karma, I think it's a great idea now. The idea behind karma, connotation behind karma is a long subject. But some believe back in the day that karma is something that you cannot change, that you have accumulated karma in your past lives and you need to simply let it take its natural course. But Buddha gave this fantastic idea. You can take the charge of your ship. You're the captain of your ship, and it's up to you to change your karma. So it's also a burden. At the same time, it can be used to your benefit. So you take action, and if you want to get enlightened, you contemplate. So there's a clear individualistic message that if you want to make a change, be that change and take charge. So when you know that your action has repercussions and you don't have to lament over past things, you can take action now if you want to go into a direction that you deserve or desire. And I think it's a wonderful eye-opener for anyone, for us, for the lay people to remember.
Yeah. I said thank you very much, Ananda, for talking about how actually we create this bond and how this bond even could hurt us. I think in the second part of the sutra where Buddha talks about, I think this is what I think we want to focus more on, this typical human weakness. It is in Pali we call it mother, mother, right? Intoxication. So when people are young, they get the typical intoxication with the youth, like, oh, I'm young, and then when people healthy, they get a typical intoxication with health. And when people are still living, they get a typical intoxication with life. So because of this, and also the fourth one, when people have so many friends, relatives, of course, there are a lot of attachment. Yeah, I have all this, but people don't realize they are going to be separated. All the nearest and dearest people in our life will grow differently and will be separated from us. So because of this typical intoxication, right? And human beings have the tendency to misconduct themselves physically, verbally, and mentally. So I'm wondering why people tend to have this tendency to misconduct themselves physically, verbally. Maybe if you have some stories, I'm wondering whether you could focus on something like that. Venerable Shanta Sobana from Los Angeles, California. Would you like to focus on that area?
Oh, thank you very much, Honorable Sir. Actually, this is one of the wonderful sutra, and as all other venerable monks and our Tata Lokanan mentioned, this is a kind of like a ladder for all of us to climb the liberation. So when it comes to this sutra, and in my personal life, I used to work with children to very older people in our martial art class. So like when we become young and when we strong physically, sometimes the way we think and the way we behave totally different. And but at the same time, that when we get old, it's a kind of like our the physical behavior start to give us some kind of wisdom for us to understand the very nature of life. So we have to look why the Buddha mentioned this kind of 5 basic principal things in this sutra, because this is what we every day see, this is what we every day experience. But why still we have to reflect on it, why we have to every day remind it, why we have to contemplate on it? Because sometimes our own life take us to different path, and in our day-to-day life, our behavior sometimes start to take us to different directions, and then these very simple basic things we neglect. So I used to live with my high priest like 6 months continuously in the hospital, general hospital. In that time, I used to be with most of the elder monks, and I always ask, tell me something about life. And they used to tell me, Shanta, don't get old. When you get old, life is so different. So it was always in my mind. And another thing is that when I used to work in this acupuncture field, I used to take a lot of patients. And that is one of the interesting thing here, the illness. I want a little bit focus about it because it is very important. And why this, we have to reflect on this illness, why we have to think, why we have to contemplate on it. Because the most of time, when it comes to sickness, when we practice that, our teacher always told us, don't mention by name it. So whatever the disease is like an angel. So because it tried to give us a message. So then we had a class. In that class, he mentioned why this angel become a demon. So then in that lesson he told, most of us, we neglect the sickness or the disease.
Mm.
So this is a very important point. So when you reflect on, we are subject to get ill, and it is common, and we all live in a kind of like a common platform, not a kind of like a personal, isolated, independent place. So when we look our like a few years back with this virus situation from the beginning, then a lot of people and didn't believe it, and a lot of people rejected that, and they resist it, and even sometimes when it comes to vaccine, a lot of people say no, I don't want to get it, I'm not going to get this, I'm not going to get sick. So like that, it's kind of like that in our personal life, our egocentric, self-centered idea, and can take us to some kind of different way, even that the whatever the truth in front of us, maybe we can't see it. It's kind of like it make us blind. So this when we reflect on it, when we understand it, we accept, and we know we all get sick. And when we have that wisdom, what will happen? We start to accept the sickness or the disease, and one of the major important thing to recover. Whoever listen in this very moment, if you go through hard time, or if you have any illness or the disease, and if you don't give the right place for your disease or your sickness, it's going to hit you back. So that's why when we go to hospitals, it's not like our bedroom. It is so different. So that whoever that gets sick, they treat them in a different way. It is not for the person. They treat for the sickness or the disease. So because it has a different language. Mm-hmm. So the body start to talk with the sickness or the disease with a different language. But if we have the closed mind, that means the self-centered mind, sometimes our own mind, our own thoughts not allow our body to talk in the right language to the disease. Mm. So that effect for our deeper immune system. Mm. And then the body give up, because the body try to recover, but the mind not allow it to do. Mm. So, but in this sutra I say, reflect on it, because when we reflect on these things and we understand, we live in a common platform. Mm. So it make us more humble, and it make us more open, and it allow us to accept things as it is, and without a kind of like personalizing it. Mm. So that is one thing that anybody can recover from most of the disease and most of the illness. And if we have more humble mind, and if we give the right place for the sickness or the disease. Mm.
Yeah, I think Venerable Shantasobana, you touched a very important point here. Body wants to recover, but the mind won't let it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's also because, could it be because of this, what Buddha said here in the sutra, in this particular sutra? It's called mother, intoxication. Mm-hmm. Like when people get intoxicated with health, life, and of course the youthfulness, and I think people have this typical tendency to misbehave, like maybe they hurt, and because people's minds are full of anger and hatred and greed, craving, desire, and this conceit and all this. So these are, of course, the negative emotions, and these emotions are making the mind very weak. And then this weak mind has it to misbehave, or making the body, the people to misbehave in physically, verbally, mentally. And then as a result of that, maybe the body is deteriorating more and getting sick more. And at the end, through decay, this aging, and it goes to the end of the life, what we call the death. So now, I think I want to throw another question to all of you. It's because of this reason, Buddha encouraged the monks, nuns, the laity to contemplate in order to remove and abandon those typical underlying tendencies known as the maybe kilesa or asava, right? Defilements. Now, of course, the mother is definitely with its there's defilements, and then in the subconscious level of the mind, these asavas are there and making people misbehave. Now, if we really contemplate on this, the Buddha says we can not only help ourselves with the diminishing of the defilements and latent tendencies, kilesa and asavas, but it would help us get liberation. Now, to focus on this, I would like to go to Venerable Pesala from Sri Lanka. I know, Venerable Pesala, you also have good understanding of these sutras. Maybe can you focus on that third part of the sutra, where the contemplation can help us?
Could you hear me, Bante?
Yes, very clear.
And thank you for me giving me the opportunity to give my ideas on this sutra.
Mm-hmm.
Bante, especially when I go through this sutra, lots of things came into my mind because this is very valuable sutra. And you said it is a short one, but actually it is not the short one. It is a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And also, Bante, the first part already covered and the second part also already covered, but I would like to add some more. As you have mentioned, the reason behind doing these thing happening in the world, I mean, the wars going between countries, and people are doing lots of bad things. That is because of the Yobbana mother. Yobbana mother means that when people don't know about the death, they have the Yobbana mother. Yobbana mother means they think always we are in the youth, we are not getting died. So because of that, people tend to do the bad things. And also, if you are not contemplating on the sicknesses, that means we are subject to sicknesses, and because of that we are getting the arogya mother. Arogya mother means we are intoxicated with health and infatuated with health, and we tend to think that we are not subject to death, but everyone one day or another we have to be subjected to death, sicknesses. And the marana dhamma means when we are not contemplating on the marana or the dying process, we tend to have the jivana mother. Jivana mother means we are intoxicated our mind with the life. I mean, we are not going to die. That because of that jivana mother, we tend to do bad things. And the fourth one, we think that we have the family members, we have myself, we have a lot of friends, and even myself when I was in the in my childhood, I was doing lots of bad things with my friends. When there are so many friends with me, I feel like we are the kings in the world. So we tend to do lots of bad things during my childhood. But now I understood the meaning of that. And if people believe on the karma, and if karma is not a very good thing, you will reap good result. If you do bad things, you will reap bad result. That is very simple. If we if people know this, they tend to they are not doing bad things. Instead, they do good things. So these are the second part, and the third part it is mentioned. These reflections so much valuable. Even the Aryas, those who have attained the Sotapanna or the extreme level, if they stay without contemplating on these matters, they are getting late to get the next results like Sakadagami, Anagami, and the Arya. So even one who have entered the Sotapanna level without contemplating on the Anitya Dukkha Anatma, if they continuously live with these principles, these 5 principles, this will lead them to enlightenment even. So this that much of valuable. And Bhante, one time, Venerable, one of my colleagues asked me that Bhante, we don't need much Dhamma because you are a monk, so you have to be very careful with the Dhamma. As lay people, we don't need to be much careful, much diligent with the Dhamma because we are lay. But Bhante, if we go through this sutta, these 5 phenomena is equally applicable, even for a monk, even for a lay people, even for any kind of religion. All people are subject to equal. I mean, the rate of death is equally applicable for everyone. I mean, it is so we have to. The Dhamma is equally applicable for all the universal beings in the world. That is, this sutta is one of the best examples. Yeah. And one time, one of my followers asked me a question that he asked me, Bhante, nowadays lots of wars are going on, especially in the countries like as we could hear these days. So, what is the reason? What are the reasons for that? So, these are the reasons because people don't know they are going to die one day. People don't know they are going to have the sickness one day or other, and people don't know that they are dying. People don't know that they are losing every family members and every component thing that they are possessing right now. They don't know that one day we have to leave everything behind, and people don't know about the karma. So this is when people know these things, I mean, we can find solution to each and every questions according to my understanding, Bhante. And by going through these principles, these irrespective of our religion, our caste, our country, or anybody can reflect on these things, and they tend to get the appamada. Appamada means the diligentness, and so this is very valuable even for the Aryas or to everyone. This is valuable, and when we reflect on these things, our life also little bit getting closer to Nibbana. So that is what I want to mention.
No, thank you very much, Paisley. You have beautifully explained that, and I think, as you said, we are human beings. We, no matter though we are men or women, monks or nuns, Americans or Canadians or Europeans or Africans or South Americans or Asians, we as human beings, we all are subject to aging, sickness, death, and we will be separated from our loved ones. And of course, we all are subject to the karma. And I think if people could reflect on this, it will help them to remove this typical human weakness, the mother, I think, intoxication. And then it would help us. Even I as you said, I strongly believe if people could, especially those who are in power, don't have extensive power, if they can contemplate these 4 subjects, it would give them a different perspective with respect to the life, and then we can see war no more in this planet. We can reduce a lot of violence in the society, in the world, and I think people would become kinder to one another. So I would like to go to Venerable Trudeau in Florida. USA. Venerable Trudel, what is your observation of this sutra so far? You have listened to other venerable colleagues explaining the Dhamma, and now you also have a lot of people in the Florida area. So what is your observation?
Salutations to all of the venerables and most venerables who are present, bhikkhus and bhikkhunis. Thank you for having me. This is a very simple sutta to read and understand because it's simple. However, one must ask oneself, is it really simple? And have we accepted these facts in our own life, and how resistant we are to these facts in our own life? And, you know, here in Florida, I measure all of the students that are here, both young and old. And I'm always looking for their level of resistance to the Dhamma. And it is exactly that cost them peace. It is exactly that cost humans on this planet. These were the words of the wise. This was the Buddha who observed all of these things 2,566 years ago. And, you know, when a monk is uttering these words, when a monk uttered the words to go home, to tell the lay people to go home, to meditate on the Four Noble Truth, to meditate on the First Noble Truth, that there is, you know, look at it for yourself, look within yourself, that you are subject to birth, old age, disease, decay, and subsequent death. And if you have not seen it for yourself, and if you have doubts about it, then you would engage into social work. You would engage into going to the funeral homes, the nursing homes. You would put yourself, you know, you would wander around, go outside of your palace like the Buddha did, and to investigate what the Buddha is talking about here. And when we come to acceptance of these things, you know, giving up, unlearning what we know, the psychology of learning, unlearning what we knew growing up. And if things are not working out, and if we are not at peace, and we are not accepting these elements that the Buddha have left us, it's time to look at the blueprints of our life, and it's time to heed the words and advice of the wise. I find it very comforting going over the sutta and the noble truths over and over again. I don't think we will ever stop going over some of the basics over and over. It is very comforting because it shows us the light and reality of the true nature of life. And the faster a lay person accepts these, see it as what it is, we are no longer attached. We move about it just like the wind, wherever the wind blows in life, wherever the trees shift left, right, up and down, the west, the east, the north, the south. And when people finally depart from us, one of the most prevalent thing, the magnitude and depth of suffering in humanity, is the separation from loved ones. In the west side of the world, here in America, people are so attached to their pets that they grieve and mourn for so long. Not eating, not sleeping. I had a student that quit his job because his cat died and was homebound depression for 1 week. Those many people may see that as silly, but we monks see that just the depth and magnitude of their dukkha. And had this student, young student, internalized the First Noble Truth, internalized what we are discussing here today, the student could have prepared and anticipated that my cat is not going to last forever. My cat is subject to disease, old age, decay, just like me. And I am prepared to let my cat go, you know, and if I can have one more day with my cat, just like everyone who's watching right now, if you have a loved one, you know, if you're looking at them to the left and you're looking at them to the right, and they are still here today, then you should live your life as if today's going to be their last day. And to not take anything for granted. we can see that suffering sometimes is needless and unnecessary suffering when you do not heed the advice of the wise. And if you heed the advice of these words and of the wise, then you can see that you cushion your fall. Yes, you're going to fall, but you won't fall as bad as some of these severe clinical cases that we have seen across in humanity and in society. So I was given a topic earlier this week on a podcast about the different types of meditations that we Theravadins have, and of course the two types, the samadhi and the vipassana. But the one thing I really like is the subcategories within the path to purification, the Visuddhimagga, where it really expands and touch up exactly the sutta that we're discussing today, and how if we just take one element, literally anyone can take each of these 5 elements to meditate on. If you have not seen or accepted the fact of death, the fact of disease, then it's really wise to sit there and, go deep into that particular category. One can investigate disease by, you have the internet in front of you. You can actually go to WebMD. You can go to American Medical Association and see the existence of diseases that a person could in fact be subject to, could in fact contract, and could in fact die from or suffer severely. When you are doubting something, investigating deeply, one's mind will slowly be convinced, and because of that convincing mind, it eradicates and mitigates doubts, one of the hindrances necessary to progress on the spiritual path in the Dhamma. So that is my take on it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rajal, for adding more insights into this sutta discussion on these 5 things. The variable Tathaloka theory. Sometimes people, when we reflect on the aging, sickness, death, separation from the loved ones, the people, modern people, especially in the West, the people could take this as kind of pessimistic, Now, how can we take this as not just optimism, but in a realistic way? And how could we help people who have the tendency to view this as pessimistic?
Thank you for calling on me, Bante, and I recognize also some of the other venerable hands are raised. I appreciate that question, and it's one that I've contemplated about a lot. A few years ago at our old vihara, then the place was rented, temporary, and the son of the landlord came to do some work, and then he said, "Oh yeah, I studied about Buddhism in college. I had a class on world religions." I said, "Oh, what did you learn?" He said, "I learned everything is suffering." And, he said, "Then I didn't want to learn anymore." So I told him, "Oh, right. That sounds like you were learning about the 4 Noble Truths, what we call the 4 Noble Truths. And yes, the first one is about dukkha, about suffering, that there is suffering. But I'm so sorry if you didn't learn more, because the second one is about the cause, and then third one is about the ending. And the fourth is about the path and how to practice and how to realize that for oneself. So I feel like if you only have the first and you don't have the second, third, and fourth, then you're missing something really, really important." But I wanted to say that I feel like so much of the negativity, so much of the suffering is because of the negativity. If we take out the negativity part and the resistance and the fighting with the way things are, struggling, striving to get them to be different, then what's left is not nearly so bad, not nearly so much. So much of it is just, I'll say, like, misunderstanding or ineffectual coping mechanisms. Means we're trying something based on a wrong idea, then it doesn't work the way we hope it will or the way we want it to, and then we feel betrayed and disappointed. And this is the really negative cycle, to my perspective. And truly, the Buddha's teaching is for us to recognize this negative cycle, which is itself the betrayal due to the misunderstanding and then the impossible expectations. When we expect something to be lasting and it cannot last, it's an impossible expectation. The fault is there. When we're harmonized with the reality, then all the pain and grief, sorrow, lamentation, and despair, the soka, parideva, dukkha, domanas, payasapi, dukkha, all of that gets cut off because of not expecting, wishing, wanting, striving for something that is false and impossible. And so I see that as being the place where the majority of the pain comes up. And that I would call a negative cycle. My understanding is that the Buddha's teaching is fundamentally recognizing and inviting us to come out of that negative cycle and providing us the tools, the skills, the support to be able to do so. And so much of what we think of as positive, I would categorize as being in that negative cycle. For example, when I was a young teenager in high school, I went into the bathroom stall and sat down. Yes, it's the girls' bathroom. And then on the wall, then it said, like, John loves Mary, or Mary loves John, with a heart and an arrow forever. Right?
Yeah.
So we're just young teenagers. So I see that, then next week I come in, it's been roughly scratched out in the paint on the wall in the stall. And then next week I come, and then Mary loves someone else forever. I imagine in the boys' bathroom it might be similar, except for now John loves someone else forever.
You can see in every public bathroom.
So really, I question. So is it because it's the wrong idea, or the world is flawed, or what's the problem? Then I like to tell you a very short story, because I'm a bit of a historian. My graduate school studies are in World Bhikkhuni Sangha history and comparative Bhikkhuni Vinaya. So I was studying about the Bhikkhuni's 5 robes. One of them that the bhikkhus don't have is called Sankachika. And what is Sankachika? Then now these days, bhikkhunis and also bhikkhus in North America often use a shirt or blouse with their robes, or fleece jacket like a bante. But what is the old Sankachika? Then I found the first known pictures of wearing the jacket in the South Asian context. Sri Lanka, it's a parade, periyar, for a funeral, death. Then a Catholic missionary, Jesuit missionary's diary showed this picture. And he said something so amazing to him. He had gone to Sri Lanka wanting to convert and save people through Jesus, because he thought they're missing something in Buddhism. But when he witnessed this funeral, the young son had died at a young age. Then the parents, Buddhists, were there, and they weren't crying. They weren't weeping, they weren't mourning, they weren't wailing. This is going back to the previous venerable, what he said. And he was so mystified. Why? So he interviewed them afterwards, then he wrote it down in his diary. This is the then Jesuit missionary diary. I was looking at a picture of the Pettihair parade, death, and not Pettihair, but death parade, funeral parade. So then they quoted to him a verse and explained it to him. And in this verse, just a moment, I found it. I think this verse is actually from Therigatha, Patachara Therigatha. Just a moment. It goes something like, how does it go? My son, you weep for one whose path you do not really comprehend, whether he's coming or going. From where has that son of yours come? Then it goes down uninvited. This is the quote that those Sri Lankan Buddhists said devoutly then, after the death of their son to the Jesuit missionary. They said, uninvited, he came from there. Unpermitted, he's gone from here. And having come from who knows where, he lived for but a few short days. So this is from the Patachara Oraga Sutta. Yes, thank you also. Maybe it appears several times in the canon. So these devout Buddhist lay people then explained to him with such a lightness of being, such a purity of heart, that this missionary, Christian missionary, noted it in his diary. He thought, if they think like this, why do they need me? They found something in the Buddha's teaching that has freed them even from the great pains of the death of their young son. And he recorded that in his diary for posterity. I think this is because they, through the Buddha's teaching, contemplation, realization, and understanding, their minds and hearts are in accordance with the truth of things. They're not being beaten up by the actuality of things. They're not being betrayed by it. And they're not living, wishing, wanting, longing, striving, hoping, praying for the things to be different than the true reality and the actuality of things. So I just wanted to share that small Sankachika story with you, because he recognized in them something so bright and beautiful and joyful that even he who was a missionary and thought he had found God to travel afar, found so remarkable amongst the South Asian Buddhists that he noted in his diary these verses from Uraga Sutta or from Patachara Theri from the Buddhist teaching.
Yeah, thank you, Venerable Tathagata, for telling that story. Actually, there are so many stories like that. The Westerners who were searching the spiritual paths to happiness, and after reading the Buddhist Sutra, especially as you all know, the scholars from Germany and in England, from America, even our own the most venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi himself found refuge and shelter in these teachings after going to Sri Lanka and South Asia. They were exploring, and that's why they have adopted this spiritual life as Buddhist monks and nuns. And so thank you so much for sharing those insights with us. Next, let's go to Venerable Shanta Sobana from Los Angeles. You raised your hand. You have more insights to share with us. Venerable Shanta Sobana.
Yeah, thank you, Venerable Sirs. And I just want to mention that, especially in these countries, when we talk about this kind of thing, sometimes, as Venerable mentioned, some people don't like to accept it, you know. And but what I use to make them more understandable, if we reflect on, it is subject to get ill and decay and death, and even all the loved ones one day going to disappear from us. I always point out them, Dhamma is not something that try to convert you or try to make you a different person. Dhamma is the tool, try to get the best out of you. So then, when you reflect on these kind of things, you will put the best value on you in this very moment. And then you can be the best, you can be your best version of you for yourself and for others. Because as example, if we think, that whoever, even in this community of Sangha, that we all one day going to disappear.
Yeah.
So then, so then when we come together, we give a space for others and we give opportunities for others. We give the respect and we give our best for others. So as husband, wife, children, friends and family members, during this Thanksgiving time, the Christmas come, New Year come, and we know with this science and technology and slowly people losing these connections. So, but if we know this, the moment we experience here in this very moment, not going to be forever, and it is irreversible. And if we know the value of that, then we can give our best for others. So then out of that, we come to the completion of the moment. So that completion will bring the contentment. So when we have that contentment, even as in any person, so that will give us the confidence to that person to stand for his own life. So because otherwise sometimes we all have a boss behind our back. That is our emotions.
Yeah.
So the karma is a kind of like a best antidote for the emotions. So if I bring a very beautiful story about the Valmiki, one of the greatest poetry in all history, the literature in the world. He's the one who wrote this Ramayana. He was a little boy and he got lost in the jungle, and by the time what happened, there was a hunter found him, and then by the time Valmiki became a hunter, so he used to rob the people whoever crossed the jungle. So one day he met the Rishi Narada, and the Narada was so humble and little person and didn't go against the Valmiki. And Valmiki told, okay, give me all whatever you have. So the Rishi Narada told, do you know what you're doing? Why you do this? Then the Valmiki told, I do this because of my wife, my children. Then the Valmiki told, remember, there is a karma behind this. You are responsible for that. Then he asked, what is karma? So karma is the reaction and the result, whatever the action you do. So then he told, I'm not responsible for anything. Then the Narada told, no, you are responsible. So no one going to take that responsibility. So then he hit his mind and then he went home. And then in the evening, he had a discussion with his wife and asked, by the way, that I have done this everything for you, and are you willing to take the responsibility? Then the wife told, no, I don't want to take any responsibility. Then he went to children and asked. The children also told, no, we don't want to take that responsibility. And then he understood, so there is no one end of the day to take the responsibility for our own actions. So then he went and started to practice meditation, and out of that he transformed to completely different person. So what does that mean? Even within ourselves in this very moment, there is someone, maybe unseen person within ourselves, but our emotions, our interference, our day-to-day activities covered that person and maybe not allow that person to come out. So if we go through this kind of reflection and brush up ourselves and build up the awareness, and that will help us to bring the best version of us. So as in this human life, in this moment, if we all can experience ourselves our best, I think then no one going to afraid for this. So that's how most of time when people come, when I say that reflect on your own life, because when you get old, and sometimes they don't like it. They say, I don't want to reflect on that. I don't want to reflect on my death. It get depress me. I say, no, it make you more better person. You know, and reflect on you going to get old, and that time what you going to do. So sometimes people don't like it. They think every time, every day, because the science and this biology and everybody and trying to build up a forever immortal lifestyle, but it's not going to happen like that.
I think that is a very powerful story you told us. I think everyone should listen to this story, keep that story in the mind. And eventually we all are responsible for our own. That's why Buddha said, don't kamma sakomi. You are the owner of your own karma, not anyone else. Okay, next, Bhante Jinananda, you raised your hand. What mindset to share with us?
Yes, Bhante, I was away in the discussion for 20 minutes, but I joined with the discussion later on, and I just want to draw everyone attention to the later part of the sutta, which tells us a very important thing. Simply, some people who read the sutta for the first time might think that this is something to reflect that we die and we will be sick and all kinds of things. But no, it's not the end of the discourse, and there are many things to focus. Actually, these are type of meditation that we can do on everyday basis. As Bhante Ananda in his first explanation said that they are intertwined. I really like to station myself on the fourth one, sabbe me piye manape. So it means that every dear and pleasing things are going to depart from us, including, suppose if you are a young person, right? So what is the pleasing and dear thing for you is your youth, nature. So when you know that it is going to change, it is going to, not going to be with you all the time, you are going to do something great. So you are going to be a noble person. If you look at the later part of the discussion, the Buddha talks about the noble disciple is reflecting thus. So in one sense, this is a reality, and when you take it into your account, you change your attitude, you change your character to a normal person, to a very disciplined and very nice person, so that the person is starting thinking of that I'm going to die, and not only myself, but everybody else in the world. That is a kind of very important point of reflection, that you compare yourself to others, and the fear of dying and the fear of aging, fear of being sick is going to be over with that comparison. And then the Buddha said that is the very moment that you found the noble path. Let me say this to you. This is what the sutta says. It is really interesting. Thus the noble disciple reflects, thus I am not the only one who is subject to old age, not exempt from old age. All beings that come and go, that pass away and undergo rebirth, are subject to old age, and so on. So that when he often reflects this, he's going to clear the path, and the path is generated, and he's clear with that, and he pursue his path and develop it, cultivate it, and finally fetters are going to abandon. So this is just a kind of guideline for us to get nirvana into experience. So that the Buddha did not tell this just because of finding mere happiness for living this life, but it is always having a very nice idea behind it. So that I just want to add here that this is a type of continuous meditation and reflection for us to end the defilement of our mind. So there would be many ways to enter it, but this is what the Buddha said at the end of the discourse.
Yeah, I think that's very beautiful. And we actually, during your absence, Venerable Pesala was talking about that as well. So thank you for bringing more attention to that part of this. So it's not just me, but there are people around the world, near, far away, living. Doesn't matter who they are. We all are subject to these negative experiences. Venerable Ananda Dero, you raised your hand. What are your insights? More insights.
I will very quickly, briefly put it out that with regard to the Buddhism being, I mean, especially a sutra like this Tana Sutra, when you say it out loud, it has this nihilistic vibe, if you look at it that way. People who are attuned, they won't consider it nihilistic, but for a complete stranger, it would look very inauspicious. So a couple of things like what I always say, my foreign friends who are non-Buddhist, is that we do get reminders. For example, a couple of days ago, our propane gas ran out and we got a reminder. And whenever we drive, we get the reminder from the fuel tank that it's going to get over. The insurance plans, they remind you every time that you need to top up, etc. So we do get reminders. And I think the fact that generally it's probably considered that talking about death or illness all the time is negative, because in Sri Lanka it is very inauspicious to talk about death. You don't wish someone death. But I think it's a matter of how you look at it. We don't necessarily think getting a reminder on the phone saying that you need to pay the credit card is a negative thing. You eventually have to pay it. So if we, I think, as monks and nuns and Buddhists, that we can tell our friends that it's not necessarily a negative thing, it's just a reminder. And also the fact that Buddha didn't say it in a nihilistic tone. It's just truth as it is. That's the way it is. It's like winter is going to come and then there will be summer. It is as it is. It's not necessarily a nihilistic thing. It's a property of the universe. That's what I wanted to mention.
No, thank you. I think Buddha made it very clear, no, in his first sermon, Dhammacakka, about idam dukkhanti. This is painful. And I think I really love this comment made by Suminda Ansakula. Prepare to face for difficult or disastrous situation. This is a shock treatment, in fact. I think if we can acknowledge the truth, the reality, it will transform our life. I think this reminds me of 3 English words. Abnormal, normal, and supernormal. So I think if we don't accept the truth, the reality is going to make us remain abnormal anyways. When we remain in abnormal stage, that's where I think we continue to misconduct ourselves, misbehave physically, verbally, mentally. So through this reflection, it's going to transform us from abnormalcy to become normal, to normalcy. So when we become normal, then we accept the truth. This is not just me, people around me, everyone is going to be subject to these realities. And then when we bring our mind to a normal state, then through this constant reflection, if we can remove this mother intoxication and asavas and kilesas, defilements, latent tendencies, then that's how we become, I think, supernormal. That's the Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, and Arhat. And so these the 3 stages, it just occurred to me, like how we use these terms in English, abnormal, normal, and supernormal. This is what Buddha wanted us to understand. And if we are at the abnormal stage, now it's time for us to bring us to normal stage, and from normal stage to the supernormal stage by becoming arhat. So it was such a amazing discussion we had. It was very insightful, delightful, and I see even our audience really they were enjoying this discussion. They were appreciating your insights, your stories, and the stories are very powerful. This is the very reason why I have created this group. It's not just me. Now we see, like, we all have read this sutta. We have been chanting this sutta from the beginning of our monastic life, and now by listening to your explanations of the sutta, and I got to learn so much from you, and I have to acknowledge that your perspective, your outlook, the way you perceive the life, and this is helping us expand our own consciousness, our own mind. So suffering, dukkha, is a result of the unexpanded mind. So we can, and now imagine we all have the expanded consciousness, expanded mind. Then we can embrace all sentient beings with metta and karuna. So now let us wind this up. I would like to invite Venerable Sarnapala Thero. Are you there? Is he there? Venerable, yeah, he is there. To recite the Patimokkha verses for us today. Sattva papassa akaranang kusalassa upasampada sacitta pariyodapanang etang buddhana sasanang kanti paramang tapo titikka nibbanang paramang vanti buddha nahi pabbajito parupagati samano hoti parang vihetayanto anupavado anupagato Patimokhecha sangvaro mattanyutacha bhattasmin pantancha sayanasanang adhicittecha ayogo etang buddhana sasanang. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Venerable Sarnapala Thero, you have beautifully recited these three verses, Father. Thank you so much. And I'm very truly grateful to all our venerable monks and nuns for coming together and doing this discussion and explaining Dhamma for our own spiritual benefit. And this was such a good karma we did. By the power and of this good karma, by the grace and power of the Noble Triple Gem, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, may you all be well, happy, and peaceful. We wish you all the best, all the success. May Devas continue to protect and guard all of you with the divine blessings for your health and safety. And also our friends and devotees who are watching us on Facebook and YouTube Live, and also who joined in Zoom platform. May all blessings of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, blessings of the Devas continue to be with all of you for your own health and safety. Sabbe satta bhavantu sukhitatta. May all sentient beings be well, happy, and peaceful. So thank you, and I'm hoping to see you all in 2 weeks' time. Until then, stay well and happy, and good night from Toronto, Canada.
Thank you. And very good.
Thank you.
That's it, folks.